All right, Larry. Okay, Larry, we're live. I
Hello,
had a really good chance to not do anything last week, so I really appreciate it, and I'm glad the Astros came through and won a lot of games to make it a positive week for everybody. Um, I know
Clint was
we took a week
Clint
off.
was cruising last week, folks. He was
Yeah.
he was having a vacation. So
Yes, I was tanning. If it doesn't show, hopefully it's not too bad. But it was great. I was watching games though. I promise. I was watching
yeah,
games.
he
I was
was
talking to
watching
Larry
games.
about it.
He was tweeting. He was messaging me. I was like, dude, you're on vacation.
Yeah.
Watch these
No, we don't.
later.
But we're relentless, just like the Astros offense has been lately. We're relentless in our pursuit of how we help fans learn the game within the game. And like I said, guys, visit larrythegm.com. Follow us on YouTube. The YouTube names are here. Twitter accounts are scrolling across the bottom. And if you're already there watching, it's not that hard to click like, comment, and subscribe. It takes 10 seconds. So, with that being said, Larry, any thoughts about the last week or so before we hop into the content?
So Clint, I almost the articles I almost put out, the articles that went out this week, I almost named them. It was the worst of times. It was the best of times. So
I,
that's kind of the theme
yeah.
of that was kind of the theme of the articles, and we're gonna go through those articles. So essentially, I didn't put a video out for those articles, guys, but we're gonna give you essentially a short video for each one of those articles. We'll talk about the content of them, and but yeah, that's kind of the themes. Like this is the run. This is well, okay. I'm just gonna tell everybody come front. Clint and I have had a certain themes that we've been saying for this for a long time now, and you're gonna hear it like it's not I we told you so. It's just like, look, this is what the numbers said, that they're not as bad as we all were worried that they were. Now they're still only 500, right? They got a lot of work to go. And then I saw some hot headline that they're not happy with their winning streak. They want more. And like, good boys, just be greedy as can be, get as many wins as you can get while you're hot. And so, guys, just know that we're gonna be. It's gonna be a little bit of a celebration this tonight. So
Yeah. We're
let's.
gonna we're gonna yeah, we're gonna pat ourselves on the back a little bit, and we're gonna what I believe, and I know Larry believes, and I believe anybody who follows us believes. We're gonna talk about the Astros in a way that no other site, radio show, I guess fan site, whatever, what have you, is going to talk about them. And that's kind of the point of this whole thing. Is like when we come here, it's data driven, it's analytically driven, it has purpose and meaning. And I think you know, we were maybe not 100% right on everything, but we were 70% right on a lot of things, and it's starting to show. So with that, Larry, let's just get right into it.
Let's get
So,
after it.
agenda tonight, we're going to update moneymakers as usual. We're going to talk about how the Astros rose from the dead in these past couple of weeks, how they're turning a corner, and what was a great weekend for them with that series against the Orioles. How the West can be won. What's not to love about Hunter Brown lately? He deserves AL or whatever the pitcher of the month award is. He deserves all of them at this point. He's been phenomenal. We're going to talk a little bit about an article that Chandler Rome wrote, and we're not going to talk about it in depth, but there's a point to it, and we'll get to that. There really is no update on Abreu besides what has happened, but we want to touch base on how that kind of has played out for them since he left, and that was, 11 games ago. We'll do a Q&A, anything else. So, folks, if you're on, start sending questions, think about it. This is always an open forum dialogue thing, so we want everybody to get engaged with us as well because that's where we have the most fun. So, did I miss anything, Larry?
No, I just like reiterate. If you're watching this on Twitter, please jump over to the YouTube side.
Yeah.
That way you can comment with us, and like the videos. Clint's got his link to his YouTube channel. I got my link to my YouTube channel. The video for this is in both places. Jump on there, make comments, and please let's have some fun with as we go through this. And let's start with the moneymakers because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
been in it. So moneymakers, if you guys remember, April was a rough month for the moneymakers, and now we're flat. Like, look at this, Clint. How many times have you heard me say the moneymakers will follow the franchise? Like the moneymakers
Hmm.
are at 500, the team is at 500. It's
Yeah,
wild. Okay, net we're down 380 net from the beginning of April, but since April 27th, the basically when they went to Mexico City, we're up $975 for the moneymaker bets, the Bovada bets and moneymakers. Both Clint and I are playing. I'm playing on Prize Pick. Clint is playing on Underdog. I'll be full disclosure. I'm only down like 25 on the original 250 that I had in there. I'm learning and getting better. I mean, the last 2 weeks have been good for me on the Prize Picks, but yeah, I'm learning exactly how far to push the
yeah.
Prize Picks, and the difference between these bets and what's happening in Prize Picks for me and for you and Underdog is in those you're almost in the daily fantasy you have to string together. Um, Essentially, you're doing what do they call it when you put multiple bets together, Clint? You're doing
Yeah, you're doing a parlay. Yep.
yeah, you have to do the parlay, right? And so
Yeah.
how well do the XWOBA data translate into parlays is something I'm getting better daily at. The
And
best picks are up 390. So go ahead, Clint. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
no, I was just gonna reiterate on a parlay thing, guys. It's always looking at two sides of the whole thing. Like we're talking about Astros hitters, we're talking about the opposing team hitters. Don't forget when our team hits, their pitcher suffers. So there's always bets to take on the opposite side. If you
Right.
really have high belief and high conviction that Jordan Alvarez is going to hit 3 home runs in one game, I mean, obviously, I'm speaking hypothetically, even though he could, then you can go ahead and say, well, if he's going to hit that well, I can start looking at the under or over on a pitcher for certain things. So it's definitely something to keep in mind. So don't just limit yourself on what the hitters are doing with the XWOBA data. Use it to your advantage. I use it to my advantage all the time. That's why guys, you got to become a moneymaker. You got to get into the chat that we've got. You got to be there. That's the value of it because we're not just putting out stats to say this is the bet you should take. There's opportunity to talk about it and really strategize on how you would actually approach it. And obviously, you know, we always want to do things responsibly, of course, but the big thing to mind is that it can be fun because it's very informative and it opens your eyes to the game as well. So I definitely say, become a moneymaker, get in, get with the program.
Even if you don't want to play fantasy daily fantasy, the
Yeah.
moneymaker data opens up a world to you of the matchups in the game, and generally now I'm getting out to the moneymakers the bullpen, how the bullpen matches up with the team as well. So you can see like as the game happens, why they're switching to the various pitchers they're switching to at the point of the order that they're facing. So all right, I get enough advertisement for the moneymakers, guys. I would say you're missing out on some fun if you're not there. All right, let's talk about Clint. Go ahead. I'll speak from the bullet points. You jump and put the article on. What we're going to do is we're going to run through. Clint and I put together two articles. Well, I put out two articles. Clint put out this one, his one article that fits right in between the two that I put out. So it's really cool, and we didn't even talk about it. And it's like, oh, Clint,
Nope.
this is perfect. So how the Astros rose from the dead, and really what this article goes to, guys, it is the how bad it was and what was happening. And what I detail out for just to remind everybody, the major issues this team had in the first 26 games when they started out 7-19 was driven by an absolute avalanche of pitching injuries that 11 key pitchers were out or had been out by late April. 11 key pitchers were were still out or had been out for a significant period of time by that point. It's just wild that here we were sitting on on the night of August 25th with a 7-19 record. And it was so disheartening because we were been hammered with pitching injuries like no other team. The Dodgers and the Astros were fighting for the worst pitching injuries, and the Dodgers have been fairly disappointing to their fan base, considering the massive payroll and all the advantages they had. So the bullpen was also a disaster because keep scrolling down, Clint. Hader,
Right.
Presley, and Abreu all had major issues, and as we detailed out on this podcast, in that time period, Hader and Presley were besieged with terrible luck, and that was illustrated by their FIP to ERA spread. The ERA, the FIP for Hader and Presley, even on April 25th, which was the multitude of how bad they were. Hader was at a ERA of 8.38, and he had a FIP of 2.774. Presley had a 7.45 ERA and a FIP of 2.84. The pitcher I was actually most worried about at this time period was Abreu, who both his FIP and his ERA were elevated, and that's been solved too. So these big three, all of the big three were, or two of the big three were horribly unlucky, and Abreu was a huge concern. Of course, then we had the hitting issues with Abreu, and guys, we'll close the book on Abreu before we're done with tonight. But his negative 27 WRC plus by late April was just terrorizing to the rest of the offense. Bregman was off to a slow start, and that looks funny with all the vitriol that was spewed at Bregman, because he's now Bregman again. And like, well, wait a minute, what were we all saying back then? And McCormick was off to a slow start, and I kept saying I think he's hurt. I really think he's hurt. I think that, I mean, that's still, the jury's still maybe out on McCormick a little bit, but he looks a lot more like McCormick as of late. So the 2023 McCormick. All right, then we had a period of time shortly after that where it seemed to get better, but then Verlander started having issues, and he's been out since mid June. Valdez, since April 27th, or since his return on April 27th, he came back from an injury. So he was one of the 11 pitchers that was out in April. I don't know if people even remember that. He was out for like 3 weeks. Valdez has pitched really well in 8 of his 11 starts, and overall has a 3.95 ERA. In the very least, I think part of the reason the pitching starts getting better from this terrible point where where they had over a 5 ERA is Valdez is giving you innings almost every start. I mean, he's just like consistent innings, and then that helps the whole team. And Javier came back and had one good start on the 16th of May, and then he struggles, and then he's gone for the year on Tommy John. So like another, I mean, he had been out. He was one of the 11, and then now he's gone again. But some really, really positive things started happening in May after this. The bullpen, the ERA, and we're going to get into it from that point. Now, when I wrote this article, it was 3.66. It's even better than that from some other metric points. Scott, Taylor Scott has been incredible, guys. Incredible since late April. Abreu found himself since this negative point. His ERA is 1.4 and his FIP is 2.49. So all the calling out Larry the GM did here, maybe Abreu figured it out. I don't know. I'll take credit. Take credit for fixing them. Look at Hader's numbers since this point on April 25th, guys. Everything, like, we were at the depths of hell as Astro fans on April 25th. Look what happens with Abreu. Look what happens with Presley, and Presley's BABIP is still too high. So he's still gonna get better. Blanco has this like, where did Ronel Blanco come from? Like, Ronel Blanco, 30-year-old, is pitching like some like 23-year-old phenom prospect that no one ever heard of, and he's just been incredible. Now his BABIP is unsustainably low, guys. So just he's not going to be this good the rest of the year, but it's pretty amazing. And then Clint's favorite subject, Hunter Brown. Guys, since 426, Hunter Brown, when I wrote this article, I think it's down even more, was 3.16. So 3.18. So the guys, the team doesn't even have McCullers back, doesn't have Garcia back, and the others that could come in. And the pitching dramatically improved. Now, Bregman, almost in like stair steps,
Hmm.
figures it out. Like since since May 13th and 162 plate appearances, he's been a 161 WRC plus. Then he got like extremely hot in late May, unsustainably hot. 101 plate appearances, a 195. He's cooled down a little bit in June, but even since June 12th, it's a 165. We'll take a 165 from Alex Bregman the whole
I would
rest
say
of the year.
this cool down is more than welcome.
we'll, we'll let Alex Bregman be Alex Bregman, and he's back,
Yeah,
guys. He's the Alex Bregman. Now, he probably is not hitting 165 the rest of the year, but even if he hits 130, that that is more than enough. Now, since getting into a groove in early June, McCormick has looked like 2023 McCormick. Now, I think it's down to 158 after his last game, but like 31 plate appearances, 173 WRC plus. And Tucker's been out, guys. And during that period of time, the team has still been hitting 115 WRC plus before the Rockies series. It's up since then. So it's really, really crazy. And then Clint, I'm going to pass the baton on to you because you're going to tell us about what the weekend in Baltimore with Baltimore meant to you.
you know, guys, and I'll pull the article up for a minute, but the team had I guess, and I tell Larry this all the time, and I'm a big proponent of this. This team finds another gear when it has to find another gear, and I think we've seen it. We've seen it since 2015, 2016. They just there is something about them when they get into these big moments, especially against one of the better teams in baseball. And obviously the Yankee series, everybody's like, well, they weren't good against the Yankees. Well, unfortunately, as the records show for that whole time, they weren't good against anybody. So now that they've woken up, now that they're rising from the dead, they're finding their way. I mean, they couldn't have played a better series against the Orioles. I mean, from a pitching standpoint, from a hitting standpoint, we saw base hits. They were driving the baseball. Their approach at the plate was better. It was just I don't want people to forget how good this team actually is, and I feel like a lot of the fan base forgot where the talent is and how great they are. And we're doing a lot of this, most of this, all of this without our MVP and Kyle Tucker, and I think that's just really hard to speak to what I guess how valuable this time frame is. And I think what it does is it unlocks these players from a psychological standpoint too, where they're not pressing anymore. We're going to talk a little bit more about pressing. We're going to talk a little bit more about passing the baton, but we're seeing stretches where, I mean, the first game against the Rockies, what is it, 4 or 5 base hits in a row to start the game. We're passing the baton. We're simplifying. We're driving the baseball hard, and I want to. I just want to say it. Hunter Brown, Spencer Arrighetti. I don't want to sit there and say we're fortune tellers or any way, but we've been Larry and I have been very high on them and had a lot of belief in them. And for Arrighetti to go pitch the way he did, I know it's the Rockies, but to execute at the level he did was great. And to Hunter Brown to continue to execute at a high level is just phenomenal. And I just, I want us to take a minute to think about that. And I want you to think about the schedule that's coming up. We're going to, I wrote this before the Rocky series. We got the Mets coming, the Grimace Mets. I don't know. We're going to get the Grimace Mets or we're going to get the actual Mets. Remains to be seen. I know they're hot. So it's going to be a really fun series, in my opinion. Two hot teams, the Blue Jays, the Twins, the Marlins, and the Rangers right before the All-Star break. I told Larry before we went live, that series in Seattle, the 19th, 20th, and 21st, right after All Star break, is going to be huge. And I don't want to discount, how good Seattle's been this year, but I also just want to. We're going to have a freaking great weekend of baseball right after that. And so, guys. this is why Dana Brown and them are not wanting to sell. This is why there was belief in that. And I also think they finally found their way about the Jose Abreu thing. And so, with that being said, like I said, they have the quality pitching. They have the bullpen that's going to get better. We've talked about that. We've reiterated that that's going to come around. The offense can be there. It is showing up. And their defense can be great in those big moments. So I think there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic. So with that being said, we had a big turnaround over the weekend. We're 500, and now what we really need to talk about, and I'm going to let Larry talk about it, is how the West can be won.
Yeah. So when this is one of those days I woke up and I said, all right, we're gonna write. I actually, the original article was going to be how the West can be won, right? And then I started writing all this like history, and I was like, that's, this is getting really long, Larry. I was like, wait a minute, this is two articles. This is like we gotta show how we buried that other team or how we've risen from the dead and then look forward. So that's why you ended up with two articles, the one 2 days ago and the one today. And the how the West can be won. What I really wanted to go through is chronicle like how good the team has become and what that can mean for the rest of the year. So scrolling down to the purple table, Clint, you can just leave it right there. So I told you guys like from 426, that's like a signature date. What has the team done since then? Right. There was 26 games before then, and they've played 54 since. So it's more than double the time period,
Mhm.
right? Since that time, the Astros are now were since that April 25th date, they are 33-21. Well, of course, they're 40-40. I knew that. They were 7-19, and now they're 40-40. So that means they were 33-21. Well, maybe you probably knew that, but do you understand that that means they're the fifth best team in baseball in that period of time? And like, okay, so my question that I ask keep scrolling down, Clint, that I ask at the bottom of this, like, what's more important? What do you think is a better indicator of this team? What they were on April 25th or what they've been since April 26th? Like the one is a small sample size. They were decimated by pitching injuries, and since then, when double sample size, they've been doing great. Now, yes, Gabby, we do have some limitations of a lot of these great pitchers that we're pumping up. Right, they are going to have some innings limits. They're going to have to manage that. That's what I think. When Verlander gets back, they're going to have a 6-man rotation. I think when Garcia comes back, you may see Ronald Blanco go to the bullpen. You're like, how can we send the ace to the bullpen? Well, it'll be because of this, because they're going to manage his innings, right? And so I think there's going to be things that happen, and if McCullers can actually start, you may see Hunter Brown go to the bullpen too. Imagine Hunter Brown and Ronel Blanco in place of the guys that are in long relief for your team. Like Joe Espada can turn to the bullpen and say, "Who wants to pitch tonight?" Right? That's what it's going to become, and that's where I would see that Arrighetti, Brown, Blanco all potentially go to the bullpen. Maybe they, Clint and I think we talked about maybe they do some sort of like skip start situation where they go 10 days in between starts and you spread them out even further that way. So one of the things I really want this fan base to get hold of as we look forward is the projection system have already, I believe, have already caught up with where the Astros are, and they're already looking at the scheduled strength, which is something I talked about. Clint, you and I talked about that in week one. Like
Yep.
this schedule is horrible early, and it's a piece of cake for like the 120 games left, and after that, and we're in the middle of that. Yes, we have some tough
Hmm.
series, but we have the tough, like we had Baltimore in between the two easiest teams in baseball, and so that's what we're talking about. Like the team has got a much easier schedule to deal with for the rest of the season, and that's built into these models. And I know it's a lot of numbers on there. Pay attention to a couple things on this chart. Pay attention to the colors. And what this is a listing of the Fangraphs projections for the AL contenders. I lopped off the bottom three, and you'll notice that there's three teams from the American League West on this chart. There's four teams from the American League Central, and there's five teams from the AL East. Now, you can argue that the Rangers, Tigers, and Blue Jays no longer need to be on this chart, okay? Well, then there's two from the American League West, three from the American League Central, and four from the American League East. The point is the Astros are playing in a division with a lot less contenders in it than those other teams in those divisions. They have to play each other. And they're going to beat up on each other in some way, some means, or some fashion, right? So the current playoff projection for the Astros is 51.5. Fangraphs is telling you they think it's better than even odds that the Astros are in the playoffs. It's been a while since we've been able to say that. But they think the Astros are going to win 85 games. That's what the 84.7 means, right in the middle of that chart. All right. Mm-hmm. So scrolling down, so this is Larry taking a little bit of a victory lap. All right. Forgive me for this. But I put out projections for the rest of the schedule on May 1st. And I said, hey, in May, this team's going to win 17 games. Well, they only won 15. Then I said in June, they're going to win 16 games. Well, guys, if you ask me today, I think they're winning 17 games in June. And so that's what the blue table above that. This table right here is now where I expect these two teams are going to be, the Mariners and the Astros, for the rest of the season. You can literally see what I believe is going to happen with these teams month by month. And if you see the bold line in there, I think both these teams are finishing 87 and 75. Well, I don't care what you think. Tell me what experts think. All right, well, fine. Fangraphs says they're going to win 85, and the Mariners are going to win 87. Scroll back down. Yeah, Clint. And Baseball Reference says the Astros are going to win 84, and the Mariners are going to win 86. Baseball Prospectus says the Astros are going to edge out the Mariners for the division, guys. And so it's not just crazy Larry the GM being super Astro fan. All these projection systems, the core of the statistics based websites, they are all projecting the division for the Astros. It's going to be at most like a 2.5 game spread, and it's really, really tight. And I think they're going to be dead even, which means, just full disclosure, that means the Mariners will win the division because they have the tiebreaker. But that's where we're at. And basically, if you average those three, they think the Astros are going to win 85 games. I say they're going to win 87. And if you average the three numbers, they believe the Astros are currently at 53.8% chance of the postseason. So the point of can the Astros make the playoffs? Yes. Clint, I've been saying it since April. Don't fret. This team can still make the playoffs. And now it's starting. Now I think the fan base is starting to see it, a little bit of belief. And maybe this article is really to help you with your belief system about where the Astros are. All right, you can scroll down, Clint. And just so everybody has it on the record, I'm giving you series by series what I think is going to happen in the series for both the Astros and the Mariners. And you can see, you can track along with Larry as the series happen, what I think is going to happen, and it'll lead to the month. And Clint, your series, I think this is the big series of July. I'm being conservative. I think they'll win one of the three, right? And that's because, they're on the road, and that's just the way I think a series. The point I'm making is, guys, I'm not being ultra Astros fanboy with these. I am predicting what I think is really going to happen in these series, and I think what I put together is fair. All right. So then the next chart, and I know that there's a lot. I wrote in the preamble, okay, get ready because I'm going to give you a ton of data. This was one of the tables I put together, and this is really a matchup table. Like, how many times do these teams play each other? And so you can be asking yourself, like, how many times do the Red Sox and the Yankees play? Well, it's on there. You just follow the two lines. And you'll notice that if these are the contenders, how many times that's the black boxes that are following the cascade down. That's how many times the teams are playing the other contenders. The Astros are only playing 42 games versus the other contenders. The Mariners are only playing 39 against the other contenders, and the Twins play only 42. But everybody else plays more. Everybody else is playing more games against contenders in the AL. Then you can go down to the group of four teams. I said, what about the four top teams in the National League? Because, guys, the National League has four really good teams, and they have a whole bunch of teams that are basically all at the same level. And, like, I'm not going to worry about all those teams that are, within, I don't know, 3 or 4 games of 500. I'm going to focus on the top teams. And so, yeah, Brandon, they actually have a home field advantage. The Mariners are really a hard team to talk about because their home stadium is the most pitcher friendly stadium in all of baseball, or second most. So it's a team you really have to pay attention to fit minus on. That takes away the road to home variability. But, guys, the bottom two lines of this table are probably the most important things to be thinking about. That's why they're in bigger font. If you consider all the contenders, the American League contenders and the National League four best teams, the Astros have played 48 games versus those teams. The Royals play 44, and the Mariners play 45. And so you can see relative. So when you want to, like, can the Astros win the wild card? Think of this table, because it'll make you clear, like, all these other teams are going to be beating up on each other in the American League because they're all playing each other. And the Astros really, I mean, the Astros don't even play the Rangers and the Mariners that much. They only have 12 games left with them. So that's either good or bad depending on your perspective of it. But they're not going to be losing ground to them by playing them. They just need to win. They just need to beat up on all the bad teams that they have left on the schedule. All right, Clint, that's the point of that. So why am I so optimistic? Well, I kind of talked about it before in Rising from the Dead article. This is data that includes data from the Colorado series. Guys, since May 12th, all right, number one, you see the data, the 4.07 ERA before for April 26th. Since April 26th, they're 3.58 ERA. But since May 12th, the Astros ERA is 3.17. That's the second best in all of baseball. Has anybody told you that? Has anybody told you the Astros ERA is second best in baseball since May 12th? Probably not. Now, the warning is the fifth's not quite that good, and as Clint and I chronicled, like, we're really paying more attention to the fifth, but the fifth's the ninth best. I'm just here to tell you, and I'll show you in a minute why. If the Astros have the ninth best FIP, they're the ninth best pitching team with the hitting team that they are. This team can go very, very far if they just get that level of pitching. So, guys, the point is all the numbers, the strikeouts are better. Everything is better than it was, and everything. And you can see where the numbers project for the rest of the season. Now let's talk about, like, these five pitchers are all probably going to be available. And all of them are probably going to be vying for spots. Like, we're going to go for, like, everybody that wants to tell the Astros to trade for a pitcher. My answer is, like, who are you going to take off of the staff? Because you can't take too many of the players even off the staff. They don't have options. I mean, you say, well, we'll take Seth Martinez off. We'll take Sean Dubin off. Okay, well, that's two. And you're going to take Arrighetti off. Okay, maybe you take Arrighetti off or give him some rest. But you're not going to get to 5 without him starting to make a tough decision. You're going to say, well, do I really want Penn Murphy back, or do I want Blossman, or do yeah. You're going to start questioning who's really the best. And you know what that is? That's a good problem to have. That's going to be when this pitching staff really can even be better than I just told you that the projections could be. But guys, McCullers is, of all the players on this group of 5, he's the one that really drives the averages even better. Garcia is basically even with everything that the staff is going to be doing, which means he's going to fit in right in the middle of the pitchers on the staff, which means he's better than some. He's not as good as others. The point is, guys, we are going to be a better pitching team in the second half of this year than we've been. And so there's reason to be optimistic. And is it as good as it's been since May 12th? Probably not. But is it about the 7th to 10th best pitching staff? Probably so. All right, Clint, let's go down. Let's talk about hitting. So, I mean, we talked a lot. I mean, you can also pick up the link to the quick bite that I did, the impact of Abreu on the pitching staff or the hitting staff or their record, really. This table, if you really spend some time with it, is going to blow your mind. So I broke up the season into 4 sections of time. The beginning part where the Abreu was here, the part of the time when Abreu's in Florida, that's part of the time when Abreu's back for 16 games, and the 11 games since he's been released. The Astros are 9-2 since he's been released, guys. Now, when he was with the team early, there were players on this team that really started off the season hot, despite what we think about Bregman. We had a few guys. Altuve was really hot. We had several
Pena
others
was
that
hot.
were. Pena was really hot. Yeah, and so um, um, center fielder Myers was really hot, right?
Myers
So when he went to Florida, the team actually started batting slightly better, but some of those guys that were super hot started to reach more to norm. So the team went from hitting 113 WRC plus early, that when he was gone they hit 115 WRC, 116 WRC plus. That was the WAR was the 4th best offensive WAR in the league at that time. When he came back, this team hit a major, almost, I think Clinton, we talked about this, almost team wide slump. It was horrendous. The team was hitting 93 WRC plus, 16 games from the moment he came back to the moment he was released. Since he's been released, now Tucker's been out of the lineup since June 4th. So most of the time, well, all the time he's been released. Sorry. So Tucker was gone, and you can chalk up a little bit of the 93 to not having Tucker, just to be fair. But since he's been released, Tucker hasn't played a single game of the 11 games, and the team is batting 121 WRC plus of a 783 OPS. That's incredibly high. That if they hit 121, they're one of the best teams in baseball batting for the rest of the year, guys. So with Jose Abreu in the lineup, the whole lineup was at 106, even with all those hot starts. Without Jose Abreu in the lineup, the team is 117, which is like one of the top 5 in the major leagues. So the projected WAR or projected performance, if you go into the Fangraphs projection tables, 764 OPS projected, 118 WRC plus. You have to use Larry's model to get to that number, but it's about a 118 WRC plus. That WAR number that they have for the rest of the year for the offense, 16.5 is the 4th highest. This team is a top 4 offense, and it could be a top 8 pitching staff. That's good enough to get into the postseason. Now, is it good enough to win the World Series? Guys, there's some really special teams. This team's not built necessarily to win the World Series. I don't think they're going to trade given the status of the team where they are, to to, to make them a World Series contender. They get hot between now and the end of I mean, every time somebody's talked to me about trades, I said I can't address that until like July 25th. Come to me on July 25th, and I can tell you what I think the team should do as far as trades. But between now and then, you know, it's all up in the air because of where we're at. All right, so guys, one of the things I want to say. So you might, I don't trust all this WAR projections to like the season records. All right. Well, what I wanted to do is let's go back and look at the last 3 years. All right. So in 2021, the team was the number one team in WAR batting, and they were the 11th team in pitching. So that they were sixth, and they had a 95 and 67 record, which was the fourth best record in baseball. In 2022, you remember they were a great pitching team. They were the best WAR pitching team. They were the sixth best batting team, which was about third, and they had the second best record. You see the trend? The numbers kind of hold, guys. The WAR actually does translate into wins. In 2023, they were the fifth best hitting team and the 14th best pitching team. And everyone was like, "Well, this is a great team." Well, they were the ninth best overall WAR team by the ninth average ranking WAR team by that, and they were 70 and 90 and 72, which was tied for sixth, 7th, and 8th, all tied. So you say, well, it was six. Well, it was either 6 or 8, depending on how you want to split the tie. So really close. So in the early part of this year, for year to date, the team has been the ninth best hitting team, and they've been the 23rd best pitching team. You know what that is? That's 16th. You know what that is? That's average. What is the team? 40 and 40. Average. 15th best team. So I just told you that the projection systems are saying that the team is going to be the fourth best hitting team, and overall their projections are still only the 12th. And I think that's a little low. That would be the eighth best team. That's a playoff team if they can get there. That would project to be on a 46 and 36 record. That would be 86 wins, right? A lot of things are projecting the same area of 85 to 80, 88 wins. That would be the eighth best record. So, guys, that is where we are. So a lot of things are pointing to an 84 to 88 wins this year. Clint, if we go back and roll the tape to the August sessions, I think we were saying, I know it's a terrible start, but I still think this team can win 85 to 88 games.
Yep.
I still think they can do it. And so is 84 to 88 games enough to get into the postseason? Well, look at the records of all the third wild card team for the last 9 years. Some years, yes. Some years, no. And so, can they make it? Well, I think based on the way that with all the contenders is lining up in the American League, I think they're going to beat up on each other enough to where, if the team gets to 86, I think they're in. If the team gets to 83, probably not. So it's just a matter of, if there's a year in the American League in 2017, if you had 80 wins, you were in, right? It's just and no, they didn't have 3 wild cards back then. I'm showing you what the third wild card would be. So that's the story, guys. And the point being is the team can win the American League West. The matchup with the Mariners and the way the schedule falls out, they can. They cannot. They probably should make a wild card, or at least, I mean, Fangraphs and Baseball Prospectus are saying they agree that this team is more than likely to make the postseason as a wild card. So there you go. I don't know if people want to disagree or hate on that, but that's the story. That's how the West can be won by the Astros.
Right. And I think, like we're looking at this from we're being very conscientious of the reality of baseball when we
Right.
project out these schedules, these wins and losses and stuff like that. I always believe there's an intangible factor. If this team gets hot, they win 10 or 12 games in a row, 8 or 9 games in a row, a few different times during the season, it's going to fluctuate, and that's just something we can't reasonably predict. So, 85, 88 wins is fair. Could this team do better? Absolutely. Could it do worse? Absolutely. But I just, it's important for everyone to understand that the uphill battle is kind of gone. So now we're gonna ride that plateau, and we're gonna have chances to build momentum. And you can sit there and say, well, the competition's lesser. Yes and no. You know, baseball is still baseball, and it'll still bite you in the butt, and it'll still ruin your day if you let it. But also, these guys need to build momentum. They need to play these games. They need to be able to see barrel up baseballs. Like it still takes execution. It's the old saying of doesn't matter. You can play down to your opponents and lose, and you can play up to your opponents and win. I mean, that's kind of the whole thing of baseball. So it's just
Right.
you know
And Clint, nobody was like saying, well, they're playing this really hard schedule, so therefore it's okay that they're 7-19, right? I mean, no one wanted to hear that excuse then. Although I was making that excuse, no one wanted to hear that excuse. Like, okay, well, yeah, the schedule's easier now, so yeah, it should be easier to even win, and they're not decimated with 11 pitching injuries, right? So, like, it all we're heading toward I think a better second. Well, I think the second half is going to be better than the first. Okay, well, that's not really saying much, but I think they can. I actually believe they can win the West. So, all right, painting the. This is Clint. You take it away. Painting the
guys,
picture.
it's kind of something I wanted I mentioned in the article, like what they have coming up, how this is going to kind of shake out. But the Mets they're going to New York. They're going to play the Mets. They're going to play the Blue Jays. They're going to play the Twins. And I will say this is a much different baseball team than the Twins saw whenever they played them last time. And number one, and then obviously, um, number two, that's kind of where I'm at with this whole setting the stage for this series in Seattle, the 19th to the 21st. I just think it's a huge, big time challenge and big opportunity. And as we've seen, I think this team can rise to it and come away with some wins and really start to put together what is going to be that run in the second half. And it's like we always come back to the same thing. Like we've been on this boat since it started. We saw it, we understood it, and the reason why we understood it is because of the data and the way that we are reading it and using it, interpreting it. But I just want to paint this picture because everybody talks about big series, and it's like these are games they should win. These are games they need to win, but also this is how they build momentum whenever they travel to Seattle that weekend. And I know there's tiebreakers, this, that, and the other, but going into Seattle and maybe taking two away from them can change the course of a season from a not just a tangible, performance, but it's a psychological thing as well. And I think this team just continues to build and gain confidence. So I'm just painting this picture of like, guys, there's room for them to win even more games. They could stay hot. They can do all those things. It's going to be great. I think this is the perfect time to be getting really into baseball and really focus because these Astros they're in a fight. I mean,
Yeah.
bottom line.
Yeah, they're in a fight for every series, guys, and I mean, I'm showing you the data. This is the blown up portion of that big table I showed you in the can the West be won article, right? So, like, you have the detail of what I think the Astros are going to do in every series for the rest of the year. This is just a series to the the series after the All-Star game, the All-Star break that Clint's talking about with the Mariners is so critical. You can see that I'm not predicting the Astros are sweeping a lot of series. I think there's like one or two series that I say they're going to sweep, and that's against a bad team at home, right?
Mhm.
I'm I think I've been very fair in assuming, hey, okay, maybe the Mets away. Maybe I shouldn't have that 2-1. I just think they're hot. So I think that,
Yeah.
of course, the Mets are hot too. So, maybe that,
Yeah.
but the
Is
rest
it
of the
going to be the
series, I
grimace
think I've
Mets
been
or is it
very
going to
fair.
be the
Yeah.
Mets?
I think I've been very fair with my projections. And you can see, like, hey, if they don't take 2 from 3 from the Mets, well, they're behind the 87 projection, right? And that's really the territory I think they need to be in 86 or 87 wins to get to the postseason. And every time they failed to meet the expectations of where I'm setting them, it probably gets closer to the point where they're probably going to not feel like they're going to make the playoffs. And that's, I mean, because I have to believe the management's looking the same sort of thing. Like, hey, we got to track this. Like, what do we really need to do? Okay, so do you want me to take Michael's question right now, Clint, or do you
Uh,
want to?
yeah, let's hop into it. We can talk about Hunter Brown in a second, but I don't want to
Okay,
miss any questions as well.
okay, so I'm going to tell you something that no one else is saying. I'm trying like I guess I won't share the screen, but I'm looking at the baseballtradevalues.com website right now. And anybody that's followed the website knows that when we get Percy, that people don't want to hear you. That know that when we talk about trades, I'm going to the people that are literally running a website. They are setting trade values that they are essentially building a surplus value trade value. Number one, they are labeling Vladimir Guerrero as a very low availability. So I don't know if it's an agent that's putting the rumor out. Quite frankly, the source for this whole rumor, I don't trust at all because on Astros Twitter, that guy has thrown out multiple rumors that the Astros were going to get so and so and so and so and so and so, and none of them happened. Okay. So he's been right a few times right before the things happened because somebody whispered to him. The team could go get Vladimir Guerrero. Brandon, that's one of the really key issues. Vladimir Guerrero is going to make like $20 million and probably making like 25 next year. So he's not a rental, but you have to question like, are you going to get the value back from him? Now, I would tell you from a full disclosure, the age Vladimir Guerrero is, and right-handed hitter be ideal for this lineup. But Jim Crane would have to buy into a huge, huge salary change. I mean, guys, I've only written about the 2025 payroll Armageddon for 3 years, right? And it hasn't gone away. Now, the only caveat to that is if you want to pay for Vladimir Guerrero, then don't let JV get to 140 innings this year. Okay, just you. That's one way you maybe make it happen. I think that's going to lead to some real negativity in the clubhouse. So number one. So full disclosure, I don't really. I won't believe he's truly available until the Blue Jays really fall out of contention. They're close, so things can change almost on a weekly basis here. Vladimir Guerrero on their website has a surplus trade value of 4.8. Now, if you know anything about trade values, you will realize that is less than Jake Myers, Chas McCormick, Joey Loperfido, Luis Baez, Zach DeCenzo, Zach Cole, Spencer Arrighetti, Alex Bregman, Alonzo Treadwell, Alberto Hernandez. No, Alonzo Treadwell. That's so. If you tell me I can trade Alonzo Treadwell and get Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Jim Crane's willing to pay the price for from a salary standpoint that he feels so bad about playing amateur GM and says don't worry about the cost, we'll go into CBT3 territory, then I'm all in. I don't think any of those things are true. I I don't know that I even agree with the trade values website and that the Vlad Guerrero trade value is that low. If it's double that, then you're talking about Chas McCormick plus, which is probably more accurate. Um, so I haven't dived into this. No, Gabby, he's not a great fielder. So guys, I think this is a distraction. It's like most of these distractions. You're gonna have to say, like, does that make financial sense for the Astros when most of these people are telling you about rumors that are out there? Yeah, it could be Desenzo for Vladdy, right? But like,
We bring
okay,
in a whole nother slew of questions. Sorry.
what do you do for third base then in the future?
That's what I mean. You have a pending free agent, Alex Bregman, and you have no viable replacement at the moment. So we're hypothetically thinking about a scenario that once you bring in that $25 million in payroll, you're affecting extensions and everything else that
Right.
happens beyond this year.
You
That's going to be where Jim Crane and Dana Brown and them have to make that decision and decide: are we going to just pay up or not?
Yeah, I mean, do you want to do without Kyle Tucker because you went and got Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? That could be the calculus that has to be done, guys. I if they
It's
do
gonna be a
it,
much
well,
different
well
question if he was
let's
a free agent after this season. That's what I'm saying. Is like it if he was a free agent gonna walk, it's a different situation entirely.
yeah, right, right. And so, Clint, the good thing is, if it happens, we'll be here and we'll discuss what the ramifications of it, right?
Yeah,
And then it'll become more clear. If he comes and he's already come with a agreement to sign an extension, and then okay, well then we'll
yeah.
ask questions
That's the
about
other
Tucker
thing
then,
too.
right?
Is Yeah, that's the other thing too. Is Blue Jays are probably looking for a suitor that can accommodate him and his desires for an extension. And I don't the Astros. It just to me it doesn't fit. But if they were to do it and Jim Crane were to open the coin purse and decide to shell it all out, I'd give him some respect for that.
Right. All right, guys. So let's get back to let's talk about Hunter Brown. Let's talk about let's talk about Hunter Brown. So Hunter Brown, like, it's been, well, to the outside world, to not Clint and Larry, but to the outside world, Hunter Brown appears to be two completely different pitchers. The Hunter Brown through April and the Hunter Brown since May. And I say that because Hunter Brown had a 9.78 ERA at the end of April, and he has a 2.2 ERA since May 1st. Okay, but Hunter Brown had a 5.72 FIP at the end of April. Like, okay, well, that's not good, Larry. Okay, but it's 4 runs less than the ERA, right?
Hmm.
He had a 444 BABIP at the end of April. There is no way that Hunter Brown was going to allow hits at a rate of 444 BABIP, period. And these are the sorts of things that Clinton and I were saying about Hunter Brown and some of these other pitchers. Like, okay, he's been terribly unlucky. Look at the WOBA spread, guys. 447 WOBA, 354 x WOBA. All right, a 354 x WOBA in a league of 309 or 309 is average is not good. But 354 x WOBA is in a completely different level than a 9.78 ERA, where like a significant portion, I won't say half, but a small and loud, obnoxiously loud portion of this fan base was tweeting that Hunter Brown sucks. And I kept saying, you don't know Hunter Brown. Yeah, for Hunter Brown really to suck, you are saying that every single scout in the entire Major League Baseball got it wrong related to Hunter Brown. Hunter Brown has been the best pitching prospect the Astros have had. And, well, I would say he's been better than Forrest Whitley because Forrest Whitley constantly was getting hurt. So I don't even know when we've had a pitching prospect as good as Hunter Brown, because for me it predates Forrest Whitley, which means you're way back, and I probably ever. The
The other name that comes to mind is Mark Appel, but
yeah, right, yeah, well, we saw
yeah,
that one
and we
happen
saw
too.
how that went. Yeah,
So since May 1st, Hunter Brown has been terrific. 2.2 ERA. He's pitching. Tacky.
He's
He's
pitching in
pitching.
AAA.
He's pitching at AAA. He's a secret player to watch because
Yep.
he's another one that could be on the staff in the second half of this year to take pitching innings off the rest of the team.
Is one
Hit,
of those classic. We didn't need to make a trade. It's a deadline deal. It's a deadline acquisition because he's just been down there.
yeah, we traded for a prospect named Forrest Whitley. All right, the Hunter Brown's FIP. So I really want this fan base because Hunter Brown is not going to pitch to 2.2 ERA the rest of the year. Okay, he's just not. The BABIP of being 250. That's unsustainably low. So it's like he's been like the worst, luckiest, the worst unluck. Now he's getting a little bit of luck. His FIP is saying he's not as good as the 2.2 ERA. But if you basically said this guy's like a 3.5 ERA pitcher for the rest of the year, that you know what that is? That's an ace. You know what all the projection systems said about Hunter Brown coming into this year? That he was a staff ace. So that's the Woba spread is basically saying, hey, this is the Hunter Brown. You can trust this FIP at about a 3.5. That is Hunter Brown. Now, Clint, you tell the folks about this pitch by pitch stuff. That's fascinating.
Okay,
And Clint, you may need to take the weekly recaps header off because they're not going to be able to see the whole.
yeah. Let me get that off for everybody because um, I I think the one thing I really want everybody to understand is a lot of people are like sinker. It's the sinker. The sinker's just making his money. It is, but it's not the way that we envision where it's just dominant. Okay, because the sinker from an ex-Woba standpoint is 289. It's been a 336 Woba pitch for him, so it's been above average so far. A little bit below average is what it's projected to be. But what it does for him, and a lot of people give Hunter Brown credit. He can throw 6 pitches. I mean, that doesn't happen all the time. Studs. Stud pitchers that can throw 5+ pitches are just rare, in my opinion. It just doesn't happen as normal. But when you look at the ex Woba data on all of his other secondary pitches, knuckle curve, cutter, changeup, before he started throwing the sinker, how much that sinker has complemented his repertoire of pitches is really where this starts to dive in, and it really starts to change the eye angle. It changes the tunnel, the delivery, the break. And I think the best pitch that was getting hammered is the cutter, and it's just such a unique pitch to throw off of a sinker when you create two completely different breaks on the same plane out of the same tunnel, which, it's like this tunnel where the ball's getting released at through this hand, and you create that variance, and it just starts to keep hitters off balance. It creates a little bit more soft contact. They have to look for something else other than a straight four seam fastball or a cutter that's cutting into lefties a little, or a little bit away from righties, vice versa. So
So Clint,
I just want everybody to emphasize.
help help the folks understand the table at the top of this was Hunter Brown
Okay. Yes.
before April 30th or
Yep.
until April 30th. The table at the bottom is a table. Then these are both versus right-handers because the data said you to do this with lefties. Number one, the sample size gets really small, but really the huge shift has been with the righties. And the table in the
Yes.
bottom right is to the righty to
Yeah.
after May 1st.
Yeah, sorry everybody. The charts correlate with that May 1st date on where we started to see the change and where the sinker kind of came in and how this data is split between those two time periods. And like we said, we don't expect Hunter Brown to continue to pitch at this incredibly high level, but I think he's going to be pitching at a high level for the rest of the season because he's been able to implement a pitch that complements everything else in his repertoire. And I think that's the bigger thing is like when you could take hitters off of some of your below average pitches because you have to throw that pitch, when you can create something that gives you a little bit more control like the sinker does. And it was also kind of one of the things that the Astros organization pushed on Forrest Whitley a year or so ago, moving into a sinker, creating something that has movement but also has more control. It's opened up another door for Hunter Brown to work against hitters. And I think, and for me, the most value that these starters can give you is when they get that third time through the lineup and how they're able to really navigate, especially when they're 70+ pitches in their fifth or sixth inning. that's where the money is made for them because this bullpen can't afford to pitch a plethora of innings over and over and over again. We saw what that did to them at the beginning of the season. So the adaptation is just phenomenal, and I just give credit to Hunter Brown and don't discount the talent. He's great. He's going to be a great pitcher for the Astros for very many years, and as long as he's under control, I guess is the best way to say it.
Well, and Clint, one of the numbers here we should probably really highlight is the exit velocity numbers between these two
Yeah,
groups of period of time. Guys, he went from being hit at 91.3 average exit velocity to 84 point. Guys, a, a 7 mile per hour shift of exit velocity is not
think about it.
like that. That's not small. That's massive. That's insane.
It's interesting because the barrel percentage per plate appearance went up a little bit. The exit velocity has gone down. The hard hit percentage has gone down. So he's clearly the pitches are working. And then, we can get into a huge rabbit hole on why that's the case. It's just softer contact. Even though you're squaring it up, it's softer contact because it's a sinker. It moves a little bit more. You're catching less of it.
Mhm.
It's just those caveats to the whole thing. But, thank you, Larry, for pointing that out as well because it's just like there's just so many of the right things started to happen for him when he you know introduced that pitch and started using it. But I think this is more of a case of this is Hunter Brown pitching like the guy that we know he was going to be.
Correct. So Hunter Brown, really good pitcher.
Stud.
Who knew?
Yeah.
Tell us about Bregman's comments and what it means to
Well,
you, Clint.
my big thing with this, and I've seen some fan base, some folks just really upset. Like they don't look like they have any passion. They don't have any heart. These guys are very stoic, and I think that's what's very unique about this roster and this team compared to all other MLB teams. Is we got a lot of personality out there and MLB bat flips, the hype and stuff like that. But Chandler Rome put out this article. They were talking about how they're swinging too much. Alex Bregman mentioned the whole offense needs to take more pitches, and I think I just wanted to read it. These guys are working really hard. They're just not telling you. It's not visible because they do it differently. I mean, anybody who is sitting there thinking that Joe Espada is not the right manager, it's I think it's really hard to make that judgment right now. I mean, even now with this win streak and everything else, but just the personality fit. He is there. He's fighting with these guys, and they understand their circumstance, and they're going to work themselves out of it. But I also think their ABs for the past week or two just been so much better. I mean, they've seen better pitches, they've made better contact, and I also wanted to this doesn't go into it entirely, but like, you know, we've been hard on Yainer Diaz about his ability to hit with runners in scoring position, and with Tucker out, Joe Espada says, "Here, you're going to hit cleanup. We're going to figure this out one way or the other." And I think that just takes some guts, and it takes a team that's really working to find it. And I want fans to believe that these guys are working as hard as that. They're working a lot harder than it looks. But Alex Bregman's always been a workhorse. He's been a workhorse since his days at LSU. So it wouldn't surprise me that that's rubbing off, and he might be a quiet driver of all the success. So, we just gotta. We were being patient, but I just want to reiterate, guys. These guys are playing really hard, and they're working at it.
Well, I just think this is further evidence that clearly the Astros are listening to this podcast, Clint, because you've been calling for this for months. So
Yeah.
I'll just choose to believe that, although there's no evidence that other
No.
than they just parrot the things you say, Clint. So
I always had the great saying of what's great about strike one is you're gonna get strike two.
right.
So you can always rely on getting a second pitch after that. So
All right, Clint.
guys, it
Let's
also leads
close
us
the
into the
door.
other side of that.
Let's
Yeah,
close the door on the episode of Jose Abreu.
the
Clint,
Brave
I guess
saga
Clint,
is
we
over.
haven't had a podcast since Abreu was gone. We took 3 weeks
Oh,
off, so
yeah.
but you know, guys, I wrote a couple articles, and the day before Jose Abreu was released, I wrote this article. How long? I mean, just for your own entertainment value, click the link on and go find the how long article and just like, oh my gosh, like it was almost like one of those moments where I went into lawyer mode, and the Astros was like, oh
Hmm.
my god, look, are you reading what Larry's writing? That didn't happen. I'm just playing, but the point is that article made it really clear that the decision was basically Jim Crane's and Jim Crane's alone. And I think the baseball guys were saying, Jim, there's nothing left here. And then I wrote another article that basically was what the impact. Now tonight, as we went through this, the Rising from the Dead article and the Can the Astros win the West? They actually framed the Abreu situation, or the lack of Abreu situation, even better.
Yeah.
So I mean, I gave you the offensive difference between the team with and without Abreu. So guys, it appears really positive. I think the one concern really is like how much Mauricio Dubon's playing first base. Not that he does badly playing first base. It's just that you don't have that super utility
You don't have
option
that
with him.
utility guy. Yeah. Once you put him at
So
first, you've got to really navigate that situation. Yeah.
unless you're willing to have Singleton go into the game and then move Dubon wherever, or have either Loperfido or Cabbage go play first base too. So I mean, those are all
But
possibilities. But the point is, Clint and I think every single podcast we were
every
doing the
recap we
chronicling of,
did, yeah.
and oddly enough, I think if people go watch the last one, I was saying, wait a minute, there may be some early good signs. Well, it's almost as soon as I said that, they
They cut
went
bait.
they went to the next series. He didn't hit a damn thing. So it's like, okay, no, forget it. Within a week of me saying that, like, okay, no, it's time to pull the plug. And I wrote the How Long article, and it's like, okay, there's nothing left. So he's gone. All right, guys, I guess it's question and answer time. Q&A, folks. Do you have any questions for us? We will be glad to we'll address them. I know we're
Yeah.
an hour and 11 minutes in, so you got maybe have gotten your questions in. But any other questions before we go? I don't see anything, Clint. I know
No,
we
I'm not seeing anything. I
maybe
know
we should get a
we
good.
may have passed Gabby's question about whether Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s offense was upside was worth the move, and I think just from a dollar perspective, that's where you really have to crunch that, because
Yeah.
can he really drive this team to winning? You're talking about 3 to 5 more games in the second half. That's a big ask.
So, Gabby, I would say the answer to that question depends on what the definition of it is.
Yeah.
What is his offensive upside worth it? Well, in the context of your previous question, is like, well, is it worth his perceived negative impact on defense? Well, I would say yes to that question. His offense would be worth the potential defensive liabilities he has. If it is the price tag we might have to pay him that's significantly more than what I quoted from the baseball trade values, well then it depends like what it is. What is the price that this team is going to have to pay to get Vladimir Guerrero here? I don't know. Um, okay, so Brandon's asking about Loperfido. Clint, what do you think?
So
Do you think they're going to
Brandon
play
asked.
Loperfido first?
I don't think they're going to play him at first,
I don't
and
either.
I think I believe if they were going to play him at first, they would have done it already.
Well, I don't think they're going to do it this year. They may
Yeah.
send him off in the offseason and say, "Hey, you go work at being a first baseman during spring training. We're gonna work on that a lot and such." So I don't think he's
I
playing
just
first the rest of the year,
I
guys.
Yeah, I think that there's a belief, and I think that they're content, and they're probably a little more confident than probably most others are in Dubon and Singleton splitting that position. And
Yeah.
I think from an offensive perspective, that may be the better play there, overall, just because they do kind of give you the opportunity to address splits and stuff like that. I don't know if you can really do that with Loperfido and Dubon. I think Dubon has more upside in that regard, just from versatility standpoint. So I just what I mean is, like, if they were gonna let him play first, especially this season, you would have there were some opportunities where he could have done it. especially with the offense, the lineup, the situation that he was facing against righty pitching. You think, oh well, this is a good setup for him. Let's start him, and we can make the adjustment afterwards. But first base is a tough position. I know a lot of people don't think about it as much, but it's a cornerstone position on some teams, especially with good defensive teams. They need great defensive first basemen to help set up those plays. And so Brandon also said, is Singleton on the roster after the trade deadline?
So why wouldn't he be?
I was gonna say, you're implying that we trade for somebody.
Yeah, so Clint, I guess I haven't really said that here. Let me back up for a minute, guys. I don't think the Astros are making a major trade this year. I know that is like against everything, every other media outlet is pushing at you. I'm just telling you, I think most of them are doing it from a like, hey, let's get more clicks by proposing the Vladimir Guerrero trade. Hey, guys, I like if you're the Astros, do you want to go deep into the well of trading more? It depends what you're having to trade, right? Yeah. Like there's the only chips to trade that I think give you anything significant in return are Chas McCormick and Jake Myers. I'm not sure which one of the two that the team should trade, and I know as soon as I say that, everybody's going to hit me back with, well, they should trade Chas or they should trade Jake. I mean, like Jake's got more value. Chas has got probably has had stretches where he's been better than Jake. So. And you're going to have to find a team that's okay with not getting a prospect, they're getting a guy that they actually can start. There was, Dana Brown said last year, like they're looking for a team that's still trying to win. I think what he was trying to tell you is that he's trying to find a partner that he can send a Chas McCormick or Jake Myers to that could actually use that person in their lineup and have an excess of pitching last year, especially. Yeah. So. Number one, who are they trading for? Because I think we did a pretty effective job of trying to describe, like, there may not be a hole in the pitching staff to trade for. I know that's what everybody wants to do, but if they truly believe Garcia is healthy, they truly believe Lance McCullers is going to be healthy, they truly believe that Penn Murphy is going to come back, like there's I don't know that there's a spot to put another tradable arm into. And so and it's like, okay, well, they're going to trade for a first baseman. Well, John Singleton is hitting above 100 when he's facing 100 WRC plus when he's facing right-handed pitching. And Mauricio Dubon is good versus left-handed pitching. So there's no there doesn't need to be a hole in the lineup related to first base if you follow the platoon. And that's pretty much what they've been doing. Mm-hmm. Without Abreu there. So I'm not sure that I don't know that getting a right-handed first baseman is in the cards. And here's the thing. If they get a right-handed first baseman, is that player better than Mauricio Dubon playing first base? And I get it that Mauricio Dubon's utility is worthless at that, but when he's playing first, but as we described, he doesn't have to play first the entire game. But it's like, okay, why would Mauricio Dubon be playing first base? Well, because there's a left-handed starting pitcher. How long is that left-handed starting pitcher staying in the game? Well, he's probably out by the sixth inning. What is most likely to come in, and let's say Singleton's batting or Mauricio Dubon's batting seventh, right? When is that part of the lineup going to see another left-handed pitcher? Well, I mean, if they started with all righties, they're probably not. They're going to be the bullpen's going to go righty against them. Well, if you start, then you can bring Singleton in, And you can say, well, then I don't want to take you. I don't want to take Dubon out of the game because I need him as a utility. All right, go put him in left field. Go put Alvarez at DH. You know, like you what I don't understand is like what are we trying what issue are we trying to solve? And I think it's possible, like when everybody gets healthy, if we get Caratini back and we get everybody back, that you're gonna see a Kessinger back on this team, or whoever they want as their 13th batter on the bench is nothing but a defensive replacement in the infield. And that's really why the Kessinger was there, just as an emergency. Hey, my two infielders are hurt today. You know, we need another infielder. I could see something like that happening, and this team's the fan base is gonna go, why are we bringing Kessinger back? We're bringing Kessinger back because that way Dubon can play first base freely and versus left-handed pitchers. But you know, the whole left-handed pitching are, you know, like, we're basically saying we're going to trade for a first baseman that's going to be used 25% of the time. I just like, really, when Dubon could be used 20% of the time at first base, and I just what the point is, I just don't think there's enough incremental value and paying a big price for a right-handed right-handed first baseman. And I flip flop on that, guys. I'll readily admit it. I think if you put a gun to my head, that's probably the thing that they would trade for, actually over pitching, until we find out about, like, they believe that either Garcia or McCullers isn't viable to go. Does that make sense?
Oh, it does, and I think and I understand Brandon's sentiment is the front office would want a guy who can hit for more power upside than Dubon at first. I mean, so there's always the argument. You obviously anybody who can hit for more power, great, but also the argument is this team has got power in other places, and sometimes some guys have to play a role in this lineup that fits. And I know Dubon's not flashy, but you got to give Dubon credit. He can hit and he can play. He plays really good baseball, and
Okay,
sometimes you just have to be that type of guy, a compliment to the studs, you know?
okay, wait a minute. What is Dubon's OPS versus left-handed hitting pitching this year? It's 797. He's a 124 WRC plus player versus left-handed pitching. I mean, it's not like he's not. He's making very, very solid contact. I mean, it's a small sample size. I'll grant you 62 plate appearances, but I mean that
But
we
also that's
don't
why
have
he's
data. To, go
sorry,
ahead.
Larry, I didn't mean to cut you up, but that's why he doesn't, he's not in one of those power positions in the lineup because we understand who he is, but that doesn't discount how effective he is, you know?
Well, I mean, for his career, he's an 808 OPS, 808 OPS versus left-handed
Yeah,
pitching, and that's 427 plate appearances. I mean, it's not a, a 122 WRC plus platoon right-handed hitter versus first baseman. Like, I, I
he's a plus
that's part of
hitter
my
against
point.
left-handed pitchers,
You
yeah.
you you have to get a guy that's going to hit greater than 800 OPS. Where are you going to get that for any, like? Okay, well, that's Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Okay, well, maybe if like, full stop. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. comes to play at first base. He's playing every day at first base, but like, what, like, can Jim Crane afford that, guys? He just is accepting a large payoff for Abreu. It's not like, no, that financial commitment didn't go away just because you don't see him every day.
Yeah. And I understand, Brent. Either way, it's just they could 100% be thinking that. Absolutely, they could be thinking we need a power bat at first, and we, like I said, that one question leads to 3 or 5 other ones. So it's going to be interesting to see, and I think a lot of it's just going to be dictated on how well they play over this next 3 or 4 weeks.
Well, and I think the question really comes down to, what does the team really think of John Singleton? I think like John Singleton's OPS versus righties is 683, right? I mean, it's a 102 WRC plus. That's the state of baseball today. That's slightly above average. And we think of John Singleton as a big slugger, but like his OPS is less than Mauricio Dubon's.
Yeah, and
So
he's a little bit more power driven than he is contact driven, and so it,
right.
that explains a lot of that. But and that also plays into the does he think he'd give a AAA guy a chance at first? John Singleton is going to be the one that determines that opportunity. But do you think anybody at AAA is better than John Singleton at this point?
Well, and so I don't know. I mean, this is a question that one of the prospect guys would have to answer. Like, what how well did Loperfido do in the 10 games he started at first base? How well did Trey Cabbage do at the 12 games he started at first base in AAA this year? I don't know. I'm just telling you by their actions, it doesn't seem like they've been eager to put either one of those guys at first base. Now maybe that changes if John Singleton doesn't really start producing. It doesn't, if his production, I guess I really should say, if his production falls off even further, then maybe he becomes um, somebody they could move on from. Mid Scott, I agree.
Uh,
I don't. You call that? Let me show that, Clint.
yep.
I like guys. I think this fan base has been so conditioned to think that the financial situation we had from 2017 to 2022 is the financial condition that we've been in 2023, 2024, and 2025. And it's just not the case. This team is millions of dollars, like less than $10 million, almost no matter what they do, unless it's a full fire sale, from hitting the CBT3 threshold next year. And you can say, why? They're going to be losing. They'll lose Bregman. And like, well, because the arbitration numbers for the guys that they're going to keep continuing arbitration, they're going to eat up all the salary you think they're losing. And guys, I just don't think that this franchise is going to go over the CBT3 threshold. And, as long as John Singleton produces, I mean, within the context of this, see, here's the thing, guys. Most of us want to fix this offense because we saw what the offense was. But, guys, I just told you, since Abreu's left, they're hitting at 121 WRC plus. The offense is the offense is like a 117 without Abreu, and they haven't had Tucker for a month almost. Like the offense is a top 4 offense in baseball. I don't think they have to fix the offense, and I don't think they can actually afford the 40-man roster spots to fix the pitching unless somebody else gets hurt. God forbid that. And I just think we're gonna roll with what we've got, guys. I don't know. Maybe it's a little muted because it was 2020. What we've done to the pitching staff this year is it's very similar to what we did in 2020. We kept bringing young guys up because the other guys were getting hurt, and it was a revolving door of pitching. And the fact is, they don't have the 40-man roster spots to make it better, Brandon. Like which pitcher are you willing to release from the 40-man roster? And Jim Crane, which salaries are you willing? Well, I mean, there's plenty of salaries that you'd be like, well, I'll take was it Oliver Ortega, whatever, I forget that guy's name even. I'll take him off the 40-man roster. Okay, well, you can do that, but the question becomes, what are you? How are? He's not even on the 40-man now. He's not even on the 40-man. I'm not sure who the 40-man roster spot. That I mean, you can put JP Prance on the 60-day IL now because he's not coming back. There's a roster spot, but who are you willing? Are you willing to let Dylan Coleman go? I think they're holding on to him because they think he might be like he's one of the group that have been in that ready to come in and pitch in case of massive injuries, right?
I think
I
for me, Larry, it's like you want to make a move to improve the team, but you're also talking about making a move and probably trading somebody to move salary around so that you can find another piece. And then what you have to ask yourselves is with this Astros ball club is can they afford to be without Jake Myers and Chas McCormick? That would mean that their mindset with Joe Profito is he's the guy. We can move forward with him, or we're going to bring someone else up. And you're not going to bring Chris Melton up or someone like that to try and fill that void. And then you're also asking yourselves if we're going to trade a bullpen piece. I mean, who's the most likely? If you're trying to shed payroll but also improve, are you really going to get better than Ryan Presley if you're trying to trade him away to get some of that salary to make up for it? And you know, uh, sometimes it's not so much. It's not as cut and dry. It never will be. But unless Jim Crane just says "F it," let's pay them all up, then that's great. But that's never been this organization's approach.
right. I mean, I am falsely operating as a pseudo GM for the Houston Astros under the environment that I think that they're operating under because honestly, I mean, look at all the moves that Dana Brown has made this year. Most of them have been minimal salary moves that basically getting guys off the waiver wire and all these things. And this fan base has been really frustrated with that. But like, guys, they're doing that because they don't have any salary space. They're trying to stay under the CBT. I guess it's 2 that they're trying to stay under
I think
right
it's
now.
2 right now, but they're
And
just going to
and
keep climbing. Yeah.
and so guys, they're telling. I always said, stop paying attention to what people say. Pay attention to what they do, and what Dana Brown has done is say he's not selling. Well, what he said is I'm not selling. What he's done is made a lot of small, cheap salary moves to bring supplements to this team. That's what they've done, and I don't think I haven't heard the Astros organization say we're going for it. I mean, he's repeatedly say we're not selling, but I have not heard him say we are buying. And I think that's intentional. They're going to here's what they're going to say: we've bought Lance McCullers Jr. and we've bought Luis Garcia.
Mm-hmm.
They're better than anything we would have gotten on the trade market. We've bought Penn Murphy. He's as good as any relief pitcher we would have got on the trade market. These are our trade acquisitions to help fix our pitching staff. And we know exactly how we're going to slot them in because we've been planning for it since day one. Okay, he said he's buying. That's the first. Then Brandon, I haven't heard him say what he's buying. We're definitely going to buy. Okay, well, what is he going to buy? Because he hasn't been buying anything.
Yeah.
I mean, be careful. He could be saying he's buying. I just told you what he's buying. He's buying Lance McCullers. He's buying Luis Garcia. I don't think he's. I don't.
It could be
He's not
yeah.
trading. He's not trading Melton to get something here. I think the fan base has got unrealistic expectations. I really do.
Yeah, I would be very, very upset if we were to make a trade similar in that regard to give up Melton for something and kind of what we've done with JV and Gilbert. It just, yeah,
Right. And this and Brandon, you're right because this is kind of like this is what is kind
that's
of
why July
frustrating about this
25th,
whole discussion.
baby.
July,
July
guys,
25th.
I like
The
whatever that
trade
Thursday
talk
is.
show.
We will be here. We will be here we'll go 3 hours. I will break down every single we'll go over every single player you want to buy, what their trade value is, who the Astros could possibly trade. Remember last year the trade deadline, I gave you every single prospect and like, are they a player that the Astros would be willing to buy or out of their organization? Who are the ones they're willing to sell? I'll go through. I will have that list. But I just like guys. The problem is I just don't think there's many assets that this franchise has to sell that are going to deliver a lot of value. It's I think that the most, and this is why Clint, when you said, I think when Dana Brown is talking so glowingly about Joey Loperfido, I think he's doing that because he wants to be able to sell to his fan base. The reason he sold Jazz McCormick is he has that much confidence in Joey
belief
Loperfido.
in. Yep. And I think we've alluded to that a few times. Like the outfield is going to start to become another one of those places where you've got some young upcoming prospects. You've got Joe Loperfido, you've got Chaz, you got Jake. You've kind of got a plethora of things kind of happening there, and there might be some decisions that need to be made around that. So it's just kind of like I guess everybody should just bookmark it now. That last week, that July 25th, it's going to be hot and it's going to be busy because we're going to be talking about trades. We're going to be looking at this record, and we're going to be evaluating like, hey, what are we going to do? Like, is this organization going to push for something? Or are they not? Like, what? How do they feel? Is the record, has it gone the way we expected or not? Which I, firmly believe it will. So it's kind of interesting. And Brandon, you might be right. Joey Loperfido may be on the trade block. I mean, you could say the same with someone like, I guess, who else has come out? You've had King come up. You've had a few other guys. Maybe he's debuting. Maybe it's just showcase. Let's see what we can show him in this short period of time. But it,
Clint, you know what?
man,
July 25th is a Thursday, Clint. Book it.
we'll book it.
Book it.
Book it.
Astros weekly recap marathon trade show. We'll
We'll
be
start
here.
at 6 o'clock and we'll be done at 11. That's for sure.
We just did an hour and a half, and we had light content tonight, and we still did an hour and a half. All right, folks.
Yeah, I know.
Anything else?
But
I yeah, okay. I missed the
yeah,
Dana Brown said we're definitely buying. I'm sorry about that, guys, but
yeah,
I think I think that he's excited that they've made a charge. Maybe that's changes his tone on that, but I mean, this fan base has been trying. It's wild to me. Like a month ago, the fan base was trading Bregman and everybody. Now we're wanting to buy everything. It's like, come on, guys. Maybe the answer is we're not going to end up doing any of the one and just
yeah,
deploying the pitchers we got.
yeah. Guys. I mean, as we wait, if any other last minute questions, this is what Larry and I love to do. We live for it. We come out here and we want to do this weekly. Obviously, sometimes scheduling doesn't always work out, and so we're back and forth. But when you guys kind of come in here and interpret up and tell us what you want, tell us what you're thinking, what you hear, it's fun, it's awesome, and my big takeaway from this is this Astros team is far from done, and
And
they've got
hey,
a
guys,
lot of good baseball left in them.
right? And it would be great if the team traded for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Okay, I just to be clear, I'll be excited. I just don't understand. I mean, to be full disclosure, I'll be worried that means Alex Bregman's not going to be back. I mean, that
Yeah, it's
I,
almost like if you trade for Guerrero, you're conceding negotiations with someone else. So there's
and
always
that may
another
and to be clear, that may be
domino
the
to
right
fall.
answer. That may be the right
Yeah,
answer. Okay, but just bear with me. Larry the GM is not ready to get rid of Alex Bregman, and I've been fighting that for. I've been I've been sounding the alarm relative to Alex Bregman for 3 years. So I just don't want that to happen. So, and I think this fan base will find out why when we do lose him. I think I think the fan base drastically underestimates the value of Alex Bregman to this team. So, all right, Clint, let's close it down. We're an
okay.
hour and 40 minutes in.
Hours and 40 minutes in. Everybody, please like, subscribe, share, follow, retweet, tweet us. talk shit to us, whatever it is you want to do, that's fine. We're here for it. We're always open dialogue whenever we get somebody to talk to us on Twitter or X. You know, let's talk about it. Support the channels. Go to LarryTheGym.com. Read the articles. We're writing more. We're on top of it. We're constantly looking at this stuff. Larry and I are constantly talking. And if you don't do anything else from tonight, the best thing you could do ever is become a money maker. Subscribe to it. Get in the bandwagon of making some money with Larry the GM.
That's right. And you can yell at me when I screw up. I am real guys. Just so you know, I know I'm a
We
little
take customer
salty with.
service seriously around here.
I'm really salty with Twitter in general. My moneymakers don't see any of that. I'm apologizing when I'm late and asking their permission for things. I kiss my moneymakers asses for the $20 a month they give me. So you really want the softer, gentler, nicer Larry GM. That in itself is worth $20. So that's what the moneymakers get because they pay for the website. So there you go.
Oh, I'm grateful to everybody that came out, watched, joined us, listened, laughed, talked, and gave us feedback. And then obviously, Larry, we got more baseball coming up tomorrow night, and we'll be back for another recap soon.
And just enjoy watching how the West will be won because that's what we're doing. All right, guys, have a good night. Thanks.
Bye. Not everybody.